To that point, there is some new CNN ORC polling that's out today suggesting the tax battle is hurting Republicans and helping the president. Take a look at this. By a 50 to 31% margin, people say they have more confidence in Mr. Obama than in congressional Republicans to handle the major issues facing the country. The survey also shows Mr. Obama's job approval at 49%, which is up 5 points from last month. The disapproval number, 48%, is down 6 points. Now, to be clear, they're not exactly stellar numbers going into a re-election campaign, not by any means, but it is something to ask our political panel about. Former George W. Bush press secretary Ari Fleischer, you can follow him on Twitter at Ari Fleischer, and also Democratic strategist Paul Begala. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Paul, let me start with you. December 20th, 5 days before Christmas. Are you surprised at the way this is all playing out, this payroll tax cut debate?
You know, I think we've seen this coming all year, Sanjay. If you go back to the spring, the Republicans were flirting with a government shutdown. They wanted to shut down the government. And then in the summer, they flirted with defaulting on the national debt, something we hadn't done in 200 years. And now in the winter, they apparently want to kill the president's middle-class tax cut to force a tax increase on 160 million middle-class Americans. Forgive me if I see a pattern here. I think that there's pretty good evidence now that the Republicans seem to be willing to tank the economy in order to hurt the president politically. And, of course, you tank the economy by hurting the middle class. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's a good politics or good economics, but I think that's what they're doing.
Ari, I can't imagine you agree with all of that, but before you respond, I want to play a clip of how Senator John McCain characterized the fight over the payroll tax extension today on the Situation Room with Will Fleischer. Take a listen.
It is harming the Republican Party. It is harming the view, if it's possible, anymore, of the American people about Congress.
So do you agree with that assessment, Ari?
I disagree with John McCain and Paul Begala. Look, the Senate has turned into a killing ground of all good things in Washington, D.C. They haven't passed a budget in 2 years, and now instead of doing what has always been done, passing tax cuts that last a year, which is the way tax cuts work, they passed something that has never happened before, a 2-month tax cut, which makes no sense. Why? Because the Senate couldn't figure out how to pass anything more meaningful, so they did what they always do. They rubbed each other's backs, did something meaningless, and called it a day. And the Senate left town. So now the House is called the Senate's bluff. Nobody likes to see this type of dispute happening in Washington, D.C. But the fact of the matter is, from a pure policy point of view, what the House has passed is far superior to what the Senate has done. Much more serious, much more substantive. Politically, risky, yes. But it is the sounder, better approach of the two approaches.
Isn't it significant to you, though, Ari, that in the Senate we're talking about a vote 89 to 10, both parties, agreeing or at least voting on this particular proposal in the affirmative, 89 to 10? Isn't that significant in terms of where we should go?
It's exactly the sign of what's wrong with the Senate. They couldn't get their act together to pass anything meaningful that lasted a year. So what they did was they said, we give up, throw our hands in the air, let's get together and pass a bad policy. And they all got together to pass a 2-month extension. This is meaningless. We'll be right back 2 months later into the same fight, the same argument, while the House has actually passed something meaningful. The other thing here, too, is the Senate's walked away from the table. Always, when there's a disagreement between the House and the Senate on how to pass legislation, which is typical, and it happens in every Congress, no matter who controls it, they meet in what's called a conference committee to work things out. The Senate's refused to meet in a conference committee, and Barack Obama won't even call the Democrats to meet in a conference committee. This is an abdication of duty by the Senate so they can stick to something that's a I'll rub your back, you rub mine, bad policy.
A lot of people have various sort of opinions on what's going on here and what's driving it. Paul Begala, I want to play another clip. This is what Obama strategist David Axelrod told Fox News.
You have to wonder whether some folks are somehow screwing up the economy, throwing a wrench in the works is a good political strategy for them. That somehow, if they can slow the recovery down, if they can cost a 500,000 or delay 500,000 or 1 million jobs, that will hurt the president.
So I mean, do you agree, Paul? This is an intentional Republican strategy to try and hurt the president?
Well, if we look at what they do, I think the answer has to be yes. If you look at what they have said, it's been their stated policy for quite some time. The Senate minority leader, the Republican leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, he said, and let me get him exactly right, his exact words were, the single most important thing we want to achieve is for President Obama to be a one-term president. The single most important. When Speaker Boehner was told that his economic ideas would cause layoffs, he said, and I quote, so be it. A dozen or more prominent Republicans wrote a letter to Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, essentially threatening him if he stimulated the economy. The letter said that they didn't want him to do anything more to stimulate the economy. So it just, and I could go on and on. I mean, of course, their Pope and prophet and Buddha, Rush Limbaugh, began this presidency saying he hopes President Obama fails. So forgive me if I look at this economic sabotage that the Republicans have been committing now for quite some time and think that maybe they have a strategy here.
You know, Sanjay, if you really want to do something foolish to hurt the economy, pass a 2-month tax cut. A 2-month tax cut is bad economics, bad planning, bad policy, bad for decision making. It's economically meaningless. And that's what the Senate has decided to get together and do. And that's why House for much higher substantive ground. They're trying to pass a 1-year tax cut for $1,000. What the Senate passed is about $150 to $175 tax cut. That's nothing. That won't stimulate anything. The only thing that stimulates is the Senate getting out of town.
Well, so what happens? You got 11 days left before the end of the year, Paul. How do you think this plays out?
You know, honestly, I have no idea. Because
I don't think I've ever heard you say that.
I know. I mean, because I'm trying to read the minds of people who, the only thing I can see is that they're trying to hurt the president, trying to hurt the economy, trying to hurt the middle class. In my lifetime, Republicans have never opposed a tax cut, one for 5 minutes or for 50 years. They're opposing this one because President Obama put it into law. By the way, last year about this time, they cut what I thought was a terrible deal on the budget, and I was very frustrated with President Obama because it cut taxes like for rich guys like Fleischer for 2 years, but for working people only for 1. Why? The Republicans wouldn't agree to a 2-year tax cut for the middle class because they don't want it to stimulate the middle class. They don't want to help the middle class and help the economy in election year. Why else cut taxes for rich people for 2 years and working people just for 1? That's their only strategy here is to tank the economy.
Ari, I know you got something
he asked for. He wanted a 1-year tax cut. He told us it was a one-time deal, a one-time tax holiday, and he said it'd be good for the economy, which obviously it wasn't. And now he's come back and he's changed his language, and he said this is all about fairness. So that's the other factor of this. You know, this tax cut was supposed to come and go, and now we're going to be into this debate every 2 months.
I wish we had more time. Obviously, lots of strong opinions on this. We're gonna stay on top of it, though, at least until the end of the year. Hopefully something happens. Paul Begala, Ari Fleischer, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.